I've always wanted to be a surgeon for as long as I can remember. You name a medical show, and I've watched it. Anything to do with doctors, hospitals, and surgeries really caught my interest. My mom loves to tell the story of when I was 6 years old, and my mom and dad had bought me a bunch of Barbies for my birthday. I had been asking for a long time, and my parents were relieved because up until that point, I had never played with dolls and did not seem like your average little girl. I was obsessed with taking things apart and figuring out how everything worked. They couldn't leave me alone as a toddler, or they would come back into the room and see parts of things everywhere, and my little mind trying to deduce how to reassemble them and make whatever it was work again. On nature walks, I would examine trees, plants, and flowers. I was constantly talking about which ones were sick, which were healthy, and how to care for them. My parents longed for a little girl who just wanted to play with dolls, dress up, and be a typical little girl. When I had asked for Barbies for my approaching birthday, I had never seen them both looked more shocked or happy. They loaded it on thick. I got 5 Barbies, a Barbie house, a Barbie car, and numerous seemingly pointless accessories. What my parents didn't realize was that I didn't want them for typical reasons. I had a Barbie doll house a friend of my mom's had given me. Up until then, it had sat in the corner of my room and collected dust. Now I had a plan. I pulled it out from the corner, got a wet cloth, and wiped it clean. It was 3 floors and was perfect for what I had in mind. I pulled all the girly furniture out and took to making my own with cardboard boxes. It took me forever, but I made rows and rows of little cardboard beds, pillows, gurneys, x-ray machines, CAT scans, everything a functioning hospital would need. Next, I took to using a variety of materials to make supplies like IVs, needles, bedpans, gloves, masks, blankets, anything I could think of. This was a big project, and my parents were amazed at how much detail I was putting into everything. When I was 2, my parents had bought me one of those little plastic toy doctor kits. I swear I can still remember how happy it made me. Anyone who dared step through our front door was given a full physical examination from stem to stern. I took it very seriously and actually got upset if someone laughed. So as you can see, medicine was in my blood. On day 7 of my Barbie dream house transformation into a triage hospital, my project was complete. I stood back and thought to myself, yep, this is just perfect. Now all I need are some patients, doctors, and nurses. That was where the Barbies came in. 3 of the Barbies were patients, lined up in their beds. 1 Barbie was the doctor, and the last was a nurse. I used markers to mark up the patients. 1 was slated for surgery, a kidney removal due to a tumor. So I had circled where the kidney was and was going to be removed from. The next patient was having heart surgery, so I had used a Sharpie to draw her heart on her chest where it would be. My dad had gone out and found some Barbie doctor's playsets, so I had a doctor's coat and a stethoscope, which I thought was very cool. I played with that setup for hours, day after day, week after week. There was no doubt in my parents' minds that I would become a doctor when I was older. When my mom set up play dates for me, I loved it. I loved that someone else could be the patient, and I could be the doctor. I remember a fight I had with a friend on my street when she said, "How come I always have to be the patient or a nurse? When can I be a doctor?" I cheekily responded, "I guess after you've gone to medical school?" She got mad and stormed out. That night, my parents had a big, long, boring talk with me, all about being a good host and sharing and taking turns. I made a point of letting my friends take turns being doctors after that. As I got older, my interest didn't fade. From playing doctor, it evolved into watching any and every medical show on TV. The dramas were my favorites. I love the episodes where they would show clips of surgeries and flash inside the open body cavities while they were lying on the operating tables. I had medical books, diagrams, even a skeleton model in my room. I had completed junior high extra fast. I was always ahead in my classes and needed to be more challenged. I skipped grade 4, then grade 8, then grade 10. My plan was to get into medical school, graduate, and be practicing medicine by the time I was in my early 20s. I wanted to become a surgeon. The thought of slicing into people on a daily basis made my adrenaline kick into overdrive. When I got into medical school, it was the happiest day of my life. Not that there was any doubt that I'd get in, but still, it was a major milestone. On my first day, I realized I was no longer the big fish. I was one of many. Just in my class alone, there were 5 other students like myself that had skipped multiple grades and gotten to medical school young. There was a lot of competition, and getting time to practice surgeries was a long way off. I became close with 3 other students in my class. We decided to get a place together a few blocks away from the hospital. It was great. We learned from each other and leaned on each other. We were all vying for practice time in the surgery theaters. One night, after a few drinks, one of my roomies started talking about this great old movie called Flatliners. In it, a group of med students put themselves under and induced death so they could explore the afterlife before they were brought back. At the time, we were really frustrated with the lack of surgical practice time we were getting. We joked around about possible sneaking into an operating theater and trying surgery on each other. Not invasive surgery, of course. We talked about practicing stitches, removing a kidney, and other relatively minor things. I was serious about it, and so were they. We hatched our plan, and I volunteered to be the first to have surgery performed on. We had decided to remove one of my kidneys and then reattach it. What could possibly go wrong? I was young, healthy, and even if for some reason we lost the kidney, I had another one. It took a while to line up the necessary medical equipment and supplies we needed, but 8 days later, we were ready. We all stayed after our shift on the day we had snuck everything into an old operating theater that wasn't used anymore. My one friend was really nervous. She was the one I figured was the most likely to chicken out. She kept saying, "What if this is a mistake? What if something goes wrong? What if we get kicked out of the program?" "We won't," I said. "Now quit whining and help me get prepped." I was lying on the table and my heart was thumping like crazy. I wanted twilight sedation where I wouldn't feel what was happening but would be awake for it. Heck, I wanted to learn too. So the mask was placed over my face. I breathed in deeply and off we went. Sarah made the first incision and positioned the mirror so I could watch. It's very surreal seeing surgery performed on yourself, that's for sure. When I saw the blood, I had to remind myself for a second that it was my blood. When the kidney was removed and placed in the pan, I told them to poke around a bit, learn. We all were looking, and it was amazing to see inside at such close range. After 2 minutes of exploring, she put the kidney back in, watched it, and said it was time to close me up. At that point, I was feeling like I wanted to be more involved. I said, "Let me close." "Are you crazy? You can't close on yourself." I said, "Sure can." Sarah passed me the suture and off I went. With the mirror angled differently, I could see everything I was doing. I successfully stitched myself up, and even to this day, I hardly have a scar. After the surgery, I was definitely a little more sore than I anticipated, and that made my long shifts extra tiring. We were all happy though. The surgery in the theater had confirmed what we all knew. We wanted more than anything to get surgery time to practice. We didn't plan on doing anything like that again, and felt lucky that it had gone off without a hitch. Flatliners is still, to this day, one of my all-time favorite movies. To watch more animated story videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And tell us in the comments section what you thought about this story.